Osaro stood quietly as she watched the strangers in her dream playfully run around. "Come back here," the man shouted at his wife as he chased after her. She kept running as she shouted back, "Go get someone else to give you what you need." That man looks like someone who had died twice, Osaro thought to herself as she watched them in her dream. Next, Osaro saw herself leaning over an edge, pleading, her hands outstretched. "Please, can you help me? Help me get a ladder. I am trapped up here. Please, ma, help!" Osaro shouted as she asked for help from the strangers. The woman glared up, holding her husband back, shaking her head aggressively. "You help yourself," she screamed angrily at Osaro. "Help me, sir. Kindly get the ladder so I can get down safely. I'm about to fall off from here. Please, help me, sir." Osaro pleaded with the man, but he couldn't help because his wife was holding him back. The man helplessly looked up at Osaro, fear and guilt in his eyes, his body frozen. The atmosphere was heavy. The sky was dim, with staring dust around them, representing emotional confusion and spiritual warning. The ladder was glowing faintly in the distance, lying untouched, just out of Osaro's reach. Osaro mustered courage and shouted, "Don't worry then, I will help myself," as she jumped down from the height. Still in her dream state, she saw herself in a field with the strangers. She was asking the man why he didn't help her, and why he would allow his wife to push him into doing something wrong. The man didn't utter a word. He just stood quietly. "Leave my husband alone. Don't talk to him like that," his wife said as she resumed her screaming. Osaro suddenly woke up and looked around her bedroom. No one was there. Then she thought to herself, who were those people she saw in her dream? What did the woman mean when she said to her husband, "Go get someone else to give you what you need"? Someone who had died twice? How is it even possible to identify such a person? Why was the woman so angry? Confused and couldn't make any meaning out of her dream, she picked up her phone, checked the time. It was almost morning. She decided to stay in bed as she scrolled through her phone. Soon, she fell asleep again. This time, she saw herself in a dimly lit narrow corridor in a public restroom, with flickering fluorescent lights and slightly cracked white tiles, walking cautiously past a row of toilet cubicles. As she moved towards the next stall, her head turned slightly in alarm. In the open corner of the previous cubicle, crouched in unnatural stillness, stood a terrifying demon, dark-skinned and veiled in thick shadow, with hollow glowing eyes, elongated limbs, and smoke coiling off its body like steam. Its head slowly tilted towards her. The scene felt cold, eerie, and spiritually charged, with tension filling the air. She could hear a low echoing through the tiled walls. There was no other exit except the one where the demon stood. She had no choice but to find a way to escape through the entrance where it stood. She ran as fast as she could towards the demon, pushed it so hard that it gave way for her to run through. Next, she saw herself in her dream, where she lay down on her bed in a dimly lit bedroom. She wore a simple white nightgown. Her expression was tense as she shut her eyes tight, one hand covering her face in fear. Emerging from the darkness above her was the shadowy demon with glowing red eyes, sharp limbs, and smoke-like skin. The demon aimed its leg at her head as it kept kicking and shouting at her, saying, It is because of your wickedness. It is because of your wickedness. Osaro's body recoiled slightly as if absorbing the impact. In the process, she kept shouting, "Jesus Christ, Amen! Jesus Christ, Amen!" Soon, the demon began getting weak. Then she jumped out of her bed, still shouting, "Jesus Christ, Amen!" She pressed one of her fingers on the demon's forehead, and soon, the demon became very weak, then disappeared. She woke up, trembling out of fear. It was morning already. This time, she didn't dare to touch her mobile phone. She began to pray for God's protection against every evil and asking Him to destroy every negative meaning of her dreams. When she had said amen to her prayers and wanted to get out of her bed, it felt like there was something near her with a sort of bad odor. But she didn't see anything, so she went back to praying. Soon, the air cleared. She could perceive a very nice scent and the environment calm again. Only then did she conclude her prayers with the sign of the cross, then got out of bed. Next, she hurriedly completed her morning chores, got ready, then set off to her friend's Ijoma, who was having a party. She tried making it to the bus stop early so she wouldn't miss the bus. They say the cold of the UK morning can chill even the bones of a lion. But on that particular Tuesday morning, the wind that blew through the streets carried more than just the scent of rain and exhaust fumes. It carried a strange twist of fate. Early that morning, the bus stop within town was buzzed with sleepy faces, heavy coats, and the occasional rustle of newspaper pages. Among the crowd was Osaro, walking elegantly, dark-skinned and calm. At age 28, she carried herself with a grace only experience could polish. The cold was much. She decided to get something to warm herself up. So she walked into a coffee shop and got herself a cup of coffee, then made her way to the bus stop. Osaro stood at the bus stop sipping her steaming coffee, waving at friends as she waited for the bus to arrive. That's when she saw him. A man, maybe 40, tall with tired eyes, a peppered beard, and a heavy duffel bag slung over one shoulder. He looked misplaced, like someone who had slept rough or hadn't rested in days. Their eyes met for a moment, and she gave a polite nod. The man didn't hesitate. He walked up to her. "Good morning, sister," he began with a faint Nigerian accent. "Please, I know this is strange, but can you listen to this on my phone? Tell me if this woman is someone that should be kept as a wife." Osaro's next instinct kicked in. With a smiling yet questioning look, she asked the man, "Are you alright, sir?" "Sorry, my name is Ferommy," the man said as he shivered due to the cold. "I had a fight with my wife. She threw me out. I've got nowhere to go. Just listen to this on my phone and tell me if this woman is a good wife material." Osaro collected the phone he offered and listened to the voice note he was playing for her. She could hear a woman's voice shouting, "This man wants to kill me! This man wants to kill me! He's beating me!" Then a man's voice said, "I have done nothing wrong to you. Why are you acting like this? Why? Stop it. It is not good." Osaro didn't really believe him, so she handed the phone back to him, then said, "You should have made a video recording rather than a voice note. In that way, people will believe you more." Ferommy looked down as if feeling defeated, then looked up again and said, "Ah, I should have. I made a mistake." He narrated how his wife had seized one of his documents, started a fight with him, and finally sent him out of their home. He added, "As it is now, I am on my way to go look for a room apartment where I can manage for now. I saw you standing here, and I thought, you are Nigerian, and a sister. I don't know. I just felt you might understand. Hold on, I'll get you a cup or two of coffee because you're shivering a lot." Osaro hurriedly got him 2 cups of hot steaming coffee from the cafe, which he handed over to him. He collected them, thanked her, and was having sips. "It's a pity," Osaro said to him, then added, "Had she been behaving like that?" "No," he said. "I don't know what might have gotten into her. She used to be very nice back home in Nigeria. In fact, this is the first time she's bringing up such behavior since I married her. She's even pregnant." "Oh, I see. Give her some time. In a few hours, she will come around. The pregnancy must be disturbing her," Osaro replied. "I don't think so. What do you think her actions showcase? What do you think she wants to do to me? She wanted me to be arrested and deported. In fact, my people said I should just go look for an apartment and stay away from her. As it is now, I am stranded in the UK. I don't have anyone here. Someone told me of an apartment and that is what I'm going to have a look at," he said. "Okay, best of luck. God is in control. He will help you. Just trust him. I would have offered you a room in my apartment, but I have just a bed," Osaro told him. "That is not a problem. I can keep my luggage in your house while I go searching for the apartment," Ferommy replied. Osaro didn't think it through, but acted based on pity. She accepted and even gave him her address immediately he demanded for it. As Nigerians will say, she acted like he was using juju on her. After she had given him the address, he said, "I see peace in your eyes, and peace is what I need right now. What is your genotype?" Osaro could not comprehend the relationship between the problem he told her he was in and her genotype. Because the question came out of nowhere, she could not even remember what genotype meant. So she just mumbled, "What? Don't bother about my genotype. In fact, I don't know." At that time, a bus came around and Ferommy rushed to board as he waved his hand at her, said bye, and then he would be at her home soon. Osaro felt pity for him because she had heard stories about how some women traveled abroad with their husbands and then kicked them out of their homes so that they could be free to do as they chose. The bus finally came for Osaro and she boarded it to her friend's house, where she and others had a nice time as they played games, ate, and danced. That evening, as Osaro got home and freshened up, she got into her kitchen and began preparing her dinner, which she would eat that evening and then store some of them in the fridge for later. She danced happily as she cooked. Soon, she heard her phone ring and a knock on her door. She picked and answered her call first. The voice on the other side was Ferommy's. He told her that he was at her door. Osaro, who was known for her always show of brotherly love and never liked to keep anyone waiting or stranded, felt pity for his stranded Nigerian brother in the UK and didn't even remember that she was dressed in her robe. She rushed, opened the door, and asked him to come in against her cautious nature. He didn't come in right away, but stood by the door, thanking her for even listening. Osaro asked him to come in because she didn't want her food to get burnt. Ferommy sat at the dining table discussing his ordeal as Osaro continued to listen to him while she was cooking her meal. As Ferommy was narrating his story of the fight he had with his wife, he would at intervals shout words of abuse and curses upon his wife. Osaro, who listened attentively, would beg him to reduce his voice, as he would be disturbing her neighbors, but he didn't even seem to notice her presence. Osaro didn't like his behavior, but as she felt she needed to be her brother's keeper, she decided to endure, telling herself that he was only feeling frustrated, and that was his way of showing it. Osaro gave him words of encouragement, trying to make him see that all would be fine sooner than he thought, telling him to just be focused on getting his family back. As it was getting late, she reminded Ferommy that he said he would only keep his luggages in her home while he went to work, and asked if he wasn't supposed to be at work on that day. Upon hearing that, Ferommy's mood changed. He shrugged his shoulders. "Oh, yes, I am. I was unable to access my house because my wife was at home," he said, then got up to leave. "It's a pity that I can't let you stay in my house. I have got no inner locks in my rooms, and I have just one bed. I really hope you will understand," Osaro said. Ferommy didn't utter a word. He just reached for the door, opened it, and stepped out. Osaro closed the door, then said a little prayer for him, asking God to help him sort his problems out. The next evening, Ferommy called again to tell her that he was bringing his luggages to her home, then have a shower before going to work. Osaro accepted, but when he arrived, he had only his duffel bag again, just as he had the previous day. He also said he wasn't going to work on that day. After more sweet words and tragic stories about his unfaithful wife and his lonely heart, she offered her couch. Just for the night, she told herself. Ferommy sat down and continued the discussions about his wife and other details about himself, which made Osaro feel pity for him the more. Then came the question again, "What is your genotype?" Osaro did not respond. She pretended like she didn't hear what he said. "I am offering him my couch just for the night," she reassured herself. But she was beginning to feel some kind of negative energy around her and couldn't explain why. Osaro, who was barely scared of anything, suddenly began to feel scared just sitting down and listening to Ferommy. He told her about how he had died twice in the past, how his wife had told him that he was too much for her, so he should go get another woman to satisfy his urges. He said his pastor told him to leave his wife and that he was going to help him get another wife. He also said he had never been alone before and would always feel scared when alone, so he needed to be around someone. That night, Osaro could not sleep because her bedroom door had no inner lock. She asked herself how she could have allowed a strange man into her house to stay. Her expression was tense. She kept sitting up and down, turning from left to right. Soon, she recalled the dreams she had a day before about the strange man who looked like someone who had died twice in the past, and of the strange woman in her dream who was telling her husband to go get someone else to give him what he needed. Aha! Her dream suddenly began to make some sense to her. Fear gripped her more. She barely slept until it was morning. She kept telling herself, "He will leave in the morning." But the night turned into 3. Ferommy was becoming more relaxed in her apartment and she wasn't comfortable with that anymore. He would use the toilet and not keep it clean. When Osaro saw that, she remembered the ghost in the public toilet, which she saw in her dream, and which later followed and tormented her in her bedroom while she was asleep. She was unable to relax that night as she stayed awake almost all through, hoping Ferommy would not enter her bedroom. She decided that in the morning she would ask him of the apartment he said he had seen and would be settling there soon. The next day, as they were discussing, she asked him about the apartment he claimed the housing agency had gotten for him. Ferommy replied saying that he hadn't seen any apartments yet. Osaro was beginning to sense danger, but she also wanted to be her brother's keeper. She didn't want to question him any further so that she wouldn't get him angry, as she wasn't sure what his temper was like. Okay, she murmured and did not continue on the topic. Ferommy told stories of Lagos, of how the UK had changed him, how his wife never understood him. Osaro listened. She felt her walls slowly cracking under the charms of a man who claimed to be broken. Then he asked again, this time adding a more suspicious statement. What is your genotype? You know, if God wants us to date, we will date. Ha ha! That's it. I have to speak up, Osaro thought to herself. She could not hold back anymore, so she calmly said to him, You know, I think it's more reasonable that at a time like this in your life, you should be more focused on finding your ground in the UK. Focus on your job. Make sure you have a steady income. Make sure you are not a liability to anyone. Let the pain you feel about your wife clear from your mind before you begin to think about getting into another relationship. As a man, you need to stand solidly. And from what I can see, you have not made anything for yourself. No meaningful investment at your age. Rather, you're looking for another woman to hook up to, even when you have a pregnant wife. It's not a good idea. Give yourself some time to think, she added. Moreover, your wife had never displayed such character in the past. That should make you understand that something is wrong somewhere. If not her pregnancy, maybe something you've done wrong. No, he snapped. He had never given me peace while in Nigeria. It has always been from one problem to another. Osaro was shocked to hear him say that. But you told me at the bus stop that she had never given you problems in the past. She pointed out to Ferumi. He was quiet for a while, then said, You know, stress. I wasn't thinking right at that time. Osaro was beginning to see through his lies, but she was calm. She thought about how to get him out of her home, but didn't know how to. On the third afternoon, Osaro, who loved nature, decided to go for her normal walk through the park as the weather was nice on that day. She asked Ferommy to join her as she felt that would help him to clear the worries of his head a bit, and he accepted. As they walked and kicked through piles of leaves, Ferommy said, This country is cold, but with someone beside you, the cold doesn't bite as hard. Osaro smiled. That's true. But sometimes the bite doesn't come from the cold. He looked at her, studying her face. You think I'm lying? He asked. No, she said so quickly, but I think I'm trying to believe you. They walked silently for a while, looking around the park and smiling at a few other people. Soon they got to a bench and Osaro sat down to relax her legs. Ferommy took her hand and she quickly took her hand off his. Then believe me, he said. Osaro just smiled. They sat in the park for a while as they discussed life in Nigeria and life in the UK. As evening came, they headed back to Osaro's house. The next day, Osaro watched Ferommy closely. He never mentioned his children. Yet on a certain day, when he hid behind the house and was on a call on his mobile phone, he had said he missed them. When she asked what school they went to, he fumbled. When she asked what hospital he and his wife had their firstborn in, he said St. Mary's Private Hospital quickly, then corrected himself. I thought you said the General Hospital previously, Osaro asked. He laughed it off. Yet again he said, Ah, you know stress can make a man mix up things. Osaro just smiled, but something deep inside her tightened. That night, she prayed before bed, still hoping Ferommy wouldn't do anything silly. At work, she found herself distracted and conflicted. Soon, she took a break from her busy shift. As she sat in the staff room, her friend Ijoma, a fellow nurse, came in. Happy to see Osaro, she walked straight to her and was thanking her for making her party a fun one. We could plan another at your house. It will be fun, you know? Do you get it? She asked Osaro. But Osaro just gave her a conflicted look. What is the matter? Osaro, what? Ijoma asked. I have never seen you like this, she added. Osaro told her friend Ijoma about the stranger in her house and how they met. What? You let a man you barely know into your house? Ijoma asked. He seemed so honest, Osaro replied. Ijoma raised an eyebrow. Even Satan wears a suit when he wants something. Be wise, be careful. In fact, you have to tell him to leave. He said he has an apartment already, so he should go stay there. What if he doesn't have anything to start with in his new apartment? Remember I told you he said his wife was in their house, so he could not go in to get his luggage. And maybe he doesn't have enough money to buy a few things to start with for now. Osaro tried to defend Ferommy. Ijoma was not ready to give up, so she said, Besides, he said his pastor told him to leave his wife and he was going to help him get another wife, so he should go stay in his pastor's house until his pastor is able to sort him out. Also, he is a man. He should have been able to save some money in the past. He should have spent from there rather than looking for free everything. Osaro nodded, but still felt uneasy. You're right, you know. Thank you for these words. They have given me courage to tell him to leave, Osaro said. She tried when she got home, but couldn't muster the courage to tell him to leave her house. so she just decided to let him stay. She even lied to her friend Ijeoma that Ferommy left her house already. Ijeoma kept trying to plan another party in Osaro's house, but all to no avail, as Osaro kept telling her that she was very busy around that time. As the days went into weeks, Osaro began to relax around Ferommy. She would allow him enter her bedroom anytime he wanted to. Osaro was more busy at work, so she didn't spend much time at home with Ferommy. One Saturday night, when Osaro wasn't working, she had eaten dinner and just went straight to bed. But before she did, she prayed. This she had learned to do since Ferommy came to her house, and she started feeling much negative energy around her anytime she was in her home. Soon after she fell asleep, she had another dream. She stood in a room filled with mirrors. In one reflection, she saw herself, but beside her stood Ferommy. In one mirror, he was smiling. In another, he held something behind his back and wanted to hit her with it. In yet another, he was with someone else as they laughed and played. She turned around in the dream, but there was no door, only mirrors, and the sound of a baby crying. She woke up sweating. She could hear Ferommy snoring gently in her sitting room. Was it just a dream? She asked herself. She prayed and slept again. This time, the dream was clearer. She stood in her kitchen, but it wasn't hers anymore. It was dirty. The fridge was open, and there was a strange smell in the air. Ferommy walked in, holding Osaro's phone. He was deleting her messages. When she asked him what he was doing, he turned to her with red eyes and said, "You gave me the key. Now it's mine." She tried to run, but her legs were heavy. She woke up shaking. She prayed fervently. She sat on her bed, refusing to sleep again, as she waited for morning to come. Once it was morning, she got ready for church. Osaro normally went to a small Pentecostal church close to her house on Saturdays. After service, as she was leaving, the pastor who stood at the church entrance to greet the church members shook her hand and immediately said, "Sister, I see deception near you. God has opened your eyes to see, but you have refused to act." Osaro's heart sank. She didn't tell him anything, so how did he know? She had also told her friend Ijeoma that the strange man was no longer in her house. Besides that, Ijeoma, her friend, doesn't stay around her church, nor do they attend the same church. So there was no one to tell the pastor about the stranger in her house. Osaro asked for prayers, and Pastor Elijah offered. Sunday morning, Ferommy was relaxing in Osaro's lounge after his breakfast. Osaro walked in with her arms crossed, then asked in a gentle voice, "You refused to join me to church yesterday. Will you join me today?" "Not sure. I don't feel too good," he said. "Or are you thinking about your wife?" she teased him. "What's your wife's name again?" He smiled. "Ah, Habiba. I told you, didn't I?" "You said Felicia yesterday." He sat up, a little frown on his face. She She took a deep breath. You lied to me. You are not heartbroken. You're haunted. His frown deepened, dropping the charm. Why are you speaking like this now? After all we shared? We shared nothing but lies, Osaro said to him. I dreamt of the truth twice. And you know what the ancestors say? If the same spirit visits twice, it carries a message. He laughed nervously. Osaro, don't let dreams confuse you. Leave now, she said, before the dreams become warnings fulfilled. He didn't move. Then Osaro added, or I will call the police on you. Immediately, he rushed and picked up his bag, folded in his clothes which he had spread on her couch, then rushed out of the door which Osaro had already opened. He left with anger in his eyes, muttering curses under his breath. Osaro watched him from her window as he disappeared into the milky mist. She sighed deeply, then locked her door. Later that Sunday morning, she went to church, and in between service, when Pastor Elijah normally prayed for individuals who needed him to, Osaro joined the queue. After Pastor Elijah had prayed for her, she felt relieved, and genuine happiness could be seen on her face again. When back from church, she felt her house was clouded with some negative energy, so she prayed and anointed every room in her house with the blessed olive oil she got from the church. Soon after, she felt the calm and peace she normally felt in her home again. That evening, in her apartment, Osaro made herself a cup of chamomile tea and sat by the window. The house was quiet again. She felt sad for not listening to God's warnings at the beginning, but also a strange peace. Her dreams had saved her, and she was grateful to God for that. In a world where loneliness wears perfume and deceit comes dressed in need, Osaro was spared by visions, not born of fear, but of truth. In the silence of dreams, sometimes God whispers, but do we listen is the question.
Thank you so much for watching. To all our returning subscribers, thank you so much. We do not take you for granted. To our new subscribers, you are all very welcome. Thank you for joining our beautiful family. We promise to keep bringing entertaining and educative tales to you. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Please join us on this beautiful platform. We will be very thrilled to have you on our channel. Also, kindly turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified when we upload new videos. You may also give us your thoughts in comment section, and share this video with others as these will support our channel growth. Until next time, keep being safe, positive, healthy, and happy.
Bye. See you soon.